Hi YouTube, it's JJ again. I really just wanted to kind of do a follow-up to my last video since I got a lot of feedback actually on one particular topic. So the first video that I made was really just about like turning 30 and taking action in your life to basically create change, right? And so one of the things that constantly came back was basically, how do I make changes in my life when there are restrictions such as money and living situations and all of that? And there was one thing in particular that came up, and that was that basically, how do I stop my parents from having so much influence in my life, right? Now, I think it's safe to say that most of our parents, except for the crazy ones, genuinely care about our self-interest and they want us to be successful. Mainly, they don't want us to make the same mistakes that they did when they were our age. Because, I mean, come on. If you don't have to learn a lesson the hard way, why would you? But we all kind of know that most of us, we want to live on the edge a little bit. So sometimes we do learn the lesson the hard way, even though we don't need to. But anyway, back to the topic at hand, which is basically at what point do you separate that advice that your parents are giving you from, what you really want? How do you take what you really want and your parents' advice and put them together so that you don't look back 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now and say, oh my gosh, I wasn't even living my own life. I was living the life that my parents foresaw for me, right? And I think the advice that I would give on that is that no matter who it is, it doesn't even necessarily have to be our parents. It could be our parents, our teachers, and anyone else who has an interest in our success. They're gonna give us advice, but at some point, there's something inherent in us that knows that, hey, some things are good and some things are bad. Because just because my mom or my aunt or my dad went through a certain situation and it didn't work out for them when they were my age, doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to work out for me. So I like to do what my friend says, which he always says, take the meat and leave the bones. And what that means is there's a message that you can take away from the advice that people give you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to use all of it. You just need to be conscious of it as you go through your decision-making process. My rule of thumb when it comes to my life is if I make a decision, I look at all the possible consequences of that decision, whether they're good or bad. If I am willing to live with the consequences of my decision, then I take whatever action it is that I want to take. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the relationship that we have with our parents, we cannot basically go through life doing everything that they say because at some point I think you really are going to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I wanted to do this, this, and this, but my mom said, or my dad said, or my aunt said. And it's not disrespectful to do your own thing. It is not disrespectful. Disrespectful would be just blowing off what they say. I think there is a way to let your parents know in situations where your ideas or your feelings come into conflict with their advice. Just explain to them why it is that you think this is the right decision for you. And if that's not acceptable to them, then I'm sorry. You really just have to go with, I'm grown, okay? Whatever decision it is that I make, I'm willing to live with the consequences and move on from there. So I've really went on a little rant there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I just get, I got this feedback a lot from the first video. And this is something that I constantly have conversations with my friends about. And I just think at the end of the day, when you look back on your life, you have to know that you gave it your all. Doesn't mean that you're going to be successful at every avenue, right? But even in those failures, again, just knowing that you rose up from that failure is what's going to make you sleep well at night. It's a story that you're going to tell your kids 10, 20 years from now, and they're going to go back or look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe my mom or dad did that. So that's my advice. That's my advice. Take your wants and needs for your life, couple it with the advice that people give to you, and just know that you need to make your own decisions. Because if you go through life having other people make decisions for you, you're essentially living your life for everyone else but yourself. That's all I've got for this video because I like to keep it short. Hope to see you next time. Deuces again from the Island Girl. Love you guys.